Uh, I'm gonna tell you a story now, which emphasizes what this meeting's about. This meeting's called Success. I know what's coming. That's why I'm laughing. This is a true story. It was written up in the New Yorker magazine. It could probably make a great, maybe HBO special one day, but it actually happened to me and my friends. And you would have never bet, when you hear this story, that the three people involved would ever, ever, ever be successful in life. So what I'm trying to say to you is, you can overcome anything if you're driven, if you're ambitious, and if you want to make it, you can overcome. And here's what happened to me. We're 14 years old. We're in junior high school in Brooklyn, New York. And then junior high school was 7th, 8th, and 9th grades, and high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. Now it's a little different. In Los Angeles, my two boys, they're in junior high school. That goes through 8th grade, and high school is 9th, 10th. How is it here? Is high school 9th grade up? You know, well, in Brooklyn then, high school was 10th grade up, junior high school was 9th grade. It's important to the story. We were in 9B4. We were going to graduate in June. This was like October. We're 9B4. 9B1, A students. 9B2, B students. 9B3, C students. 9B4, we're not sure. 9B5, Neanderthals. One guy in 9B5 loved me because I removed a thorn from his paw. Anyway, well, that day, Gil Mermelstein did not come to school. He was a friend of ours. His name was Gil Mermelstein, but we called him Gil Mappo because he had hair like a mop. Mappo didn't come to school. So me and Herbie Cohen and Brazzi Abadi decide after school that day we would go to Mappo's house to see why he didn't come to school. Herbie Cohen went on to become the world's greatest negotiator. Playboy magazine called him the world's greatest negotiator. He wrote a book called You Can Negotiate Anything. A fantastically successful human being. Brazzi Abadi, the third guy in this story, went on to become a brain surgeon in Buffalo, New York, and eventually owned his own hospital. These are Larry King, who was then Larry Zeiger, little boy in Brooklyn, Herbie Cohen and Brazzi Abadi, all of whom would become pretty successful in life. This day, we go to Mappo's house to see why Mappo did not come to school. We get to his house, and there's a guy sitting in the front on a stoop looking sad. And we say, what's the matter? He said, well, I'm Mappo's cousin. Mappo got tuberculosis. And he's left for Tucson, Arizona with his parents. He's the only child. And they got to cure him. It's going to take a year with tuberculosis, so he'll never be back in school. I am his only living relative. I live in New Jersey. So I'm staying here, and tomorrow I'll go to school and tell him that Mappo will not be back this term, and you can't leave him back because of illness, so he's going on to high school next year, so I'm going to tell him that Mappo will never be back in this school. Herbie then says, hey, you live in New Jersey. Why don't you go home and we'll tell him? He says, would you do me that favor? Yes. He leaves. Now we're walking down the street, me, Herbie, and Brazzi. Herbie says, I got a foolproof idea to make money. We'll tell the school that Mappo died. It can't miss. Got one living relative, Jersey, gone there. Only child, parents, Tucson, Arizona. We'll raise money for flowers and candy. Then we'll go down to Nathan's, we'll have laughs. And so I said, well, what happens when Mappo comes back? He said, well, it'll be a year from now. He'll be in another school. It's 10 miles away. It'll be forgotten. It can't miss. It can't miss. We go into class the next day. We went to Gil Mermelstein's house. He's dead. They call the office. The office calls the house. The operator says, phone disconnected. They write deceased. We collected $240. We went to Nathan's, we had hot dogs, we went to movies, we saved money, we were saving up for Dodger games. It was incredible. About 4 weeks later, the principal asked to see us in his office. Okay, doomed, we're dead. We're walking down the hall. I'm crying. My father had died. How am I going to, mother going to handle this? Brazio Body, I'll never be a doctor. I'll never be a doctor. Here's Herbie, the negotiator. No problem. I'll handle. We'll tell him we had the wrong information. We're sorry. We'll try to raise the money. We'll get the money back. We were given the wrong info. We'll work it out. We get to the principal's office. He's not mad. He's glad to see us. Sit down, my young friends. What the hell is going on? He don't know us from Adam. He says, ladies, he says, young boys, let me tell you what happened. The New York Times is doing a series of stories on junior high schools. High schools get all the credit because they play each other football, baseball. Junior high schools get no credit, no attention. So the New York Times wants to pick out good junior high schools if they do any projects that they could salute. We had a faculty meeting, and one of the teachers told us how you raise money for the late Gil Mermelstein. We looked up our records. Gil Mermelstein is the only student in the history of this school to ever die. Most people make it past 14. They make that leap. So what we're going to have is the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Award. It's a true story. 2 days before graduation, we'll have the entire school come to the assembly. We'll pick out the best student in the school. We'll give him the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Award. We'll give him a little trophy. And in the lobby of the school, we'll put a big statue and each year we'll add the name of the new winner. And we'd like the three of you to sit on stage in honor of your late friend at this assembly. Okay, we should have told them. We should have told them. But we were caught up in the ego of the moment, right? Now we walk out of the office and we're talking like this. What are we going to do? And Herbie comes up with a great line. Hey, let's look at it this way. You know, someday in the future, the award will kick in. Gil will pass away someday, and then it'll work, right? So, okay, we got to put up with it. We'll handle it. Now, God's honest truth. This is a data source. It was written up in the New Yorker. This is a classic. You couldn't invent this. It's the day of the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly. The entire assembly is gathered, the entire school. Sitting on the stage are me, Herbie, and Brazzi. Principal is standing on the lectern. Sitting over there is the winner of the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Award. His parents are in the first row. And that day, that goddamn day, Mappo came back to school. As Herbie likes to say, in tubercular history, this was medicine's finest moment. They cured Mappo. All right, here's what happened. Mappo comes in, goes into school, no one's in class. He opens up the door to the office. What's going on? They say, special assembly. Mappo goes down to the auditorium. There's two ways he can enter the auditorium. There's a side way through little like Chinese curtains which he could walk in, or two big brass doors which lead on to 84th Street. Mappo chooses the brass doors. He pulls open the door, and the first thing he sees is a banner. Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly. Mappo is not the brightest guy in the world, but he knows what memorial means, right? He freezes. The kids in the back look up. It's a panic. The kids in the back row size up the situation immediately. Mappo is alive. Herbie, Brazzi, and Larry glommed us over $240. This is a farce, right? Now, they knew it right away because they're New York City kids. Now, if you're a New York City kid, you're a step ahead. I'm not boasting. It's just if you grow up in New York, I'll put it this way. If you're a D student in New York, you're mayor of Des Moines. You could phone it in. These kids know. Now a ripple starts to occur. The principal looks up. The people are starting a skirmish. The little skirmishes came. Herbie stands up on stage. And to this day, I have no idea. If I call him right now, he has no idea why he did this. Herbie stands up and says, "Go home, Mappo, you're dead." Mappo flees. He's gone. the winner of the award. Do I get the award? Do I get the award? The principal looks at me and Herbie and Brazzi, and the nerds coming out of my office now. He walks off. Now we're walking down the hall. I'm crying. My poor mother. Brazzi's crying. I'll never be a doctor. Here's Herbie. I'll handle it. How are you going to get? I'll handle it. We get into the principal's office, and I have never seen an angrier person in my life than this principal. The three of you go down to your lockers, clean out your lockers, go home. You are suspended for life. You will never go to school in New York City again. I'm going to recommend Rikers Island. I think you should chop rocks. This is the most disgraceful day in my history of life as a principal in the New York City school system. Get out of my sight. And Herbie says, you're making a big mistake. And the principal says, what do you mean? He says, well, when there's a suspension, there's a meeting of the school board, and we're going to be suspended. We did we did tell a story, and we're going to be suspended. But someone on the school board is going to say, Mr. Principal, 3 dumb kids go into class one day, tell you a kid is dead. You make one call, the operator says phone disconnected. You declare a Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly. You let the New York Times know. You build a big trophy in the lobby, all off one phone call and the word of 3 kids. We'll be suspended. You'll never be principal again in the city of New York. He says, why don't we just forget the whole thing? Said, okay, we forgot. And now here's Herbie's chutzpah. 2 days later, we graduate. We graduate not alphabetically, but by size. So, smallest guy first. And Gil Mappa was right in front of Herbie. And we're walking down to get our diplomas. And the principal's calling off the other. Mr. And he goes, Gil Mermelstein. Herbie pushed him aside and said, I'll take it. He's deceased. True story.